Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This being a show where I talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Timeless. So continuing what was kind of brought up at the end of last episode, Wyatt and Rufus decide to take the lifeboat and go to 1983 to prevent the guy who killed Jessica, to prevent his parents from getting together and basically making so that he was never born, to save not only Jessica, but the other two women that he murdered. What I thought was kind of interesting was the fact is that he told Lucy. Like, I guess, like, there was a part of me thinking, like, oh, obviously Rufus and Wyatt would keep that a secret, but Wyatt actually went to Lucy and told her. I mean, for one, it's because they're a team and everything. It's like, no, there's no more secrets between them and everything. But mainly it was because he wanted to protect her, like, basically put her in a position to, like, have plausible deniability. Like, even, he gives her, like, she gives him like a 20-minute head start, and then she calls Agent Christopher to cover the bases, because it's like doing this will prevent them from kind of backing out of their deal with Lucy, because like Lucy, wanted to go along. She's like, okay, I'm gonna be there. I'm a historian. I can help you and everything. But he's like, no, this is about saving my wife and everything, but I can't have you jeopardize what you would get out of this situation, and that's getting her sister Amy back. Because like, yeah, he's not willing to jeopardize what, because they're both trying to get back someone they love, and he's not going to jeopardize that for her. And even when it came to Rufus, he pointed a gun at Rufus to make it seem like, he was doing it, holding Rufus as a hostage, which quickly Agent Christopher didn't believe. She knew it was kind of horse crap. But I just thought that's kind of neat. There was that whole conversation Lucy and Wyatt had. Basically, he's like kind of saying like, well, goodbye, hoping that, once he does this, his wife will be back and everything. But then Lucy was kind of like, oh, why does it almost feel like we're saying goodbye? And to me at the time, I was thinking like, oh, maybe that means he would be saying goodbye, with time travel and everything. Because like, oh, that would basically mean that they never met, because, circumstances would change and make it so that they wouldn't have met. It's like, maybe Jessica would still be alive and they have a child together and he gets offered a job, which, maybe because of things changing, he'd end up turning down a job in this particular time, or maybe things would change. That's what I was thinking, like, the different, because it comes down to choices and everything. But at the same time, I was like, all right, I forgot how time travel works in this show for a second. It's like, once you're inside of the lifeboat, it's like time stops for you. Like, time moves around you. So when you come back, like, everything's just changed. So for him, example, if Jessica was back alive, he'd have her and their child or whatever, like his life will have changed, but he will still be under those circumstances that led to him to being a part of his team and everything. I thought it was kind of interesting too, because this is the first time they've never been together all at once, because this would mean that any time changes they made to the timeline, as long as they weren't too significant, Lucy would be affected by it. Because like before now, it's always been those three unaffected by the time changes, because they obviously Lucy would know the original time periods. I mean, obviously they know some stuff too, but it's like, it'd be kind of interesting that this is the first time that Lucy's kind of affected by a different time period. But it was kind of interesting how he went about it. Like, Wyatt went about it because Rufus told him, I don't want you to hurt anyone. And, Wyatt's trying not to do that. So he basically tries to break her, the dude's mom, Claire, and the guy, basically it was like a one-night stand. His name's Joe. Like, Claire was a stewardess and Joel was a bartender, and it's just because of that, like that one night stand, that mistake would eventually lead to his wife as well as two other women getting murdered. So it's like trying his best to stop that. And it's kind of interesting how he went about it. Obviously, he's trying not to be nonviolent, so he's talking to Claire, actually getting to know her a little bit, finding out that basically the reason why she's even here is because she likes traveling and stuff like that. She's been to different places, and it's like she's originally from Cleveland, but she hasn't been back home. Because she's like, she wants to really go back home. That's the place she wants to go more than anything. But basically, her and her mom had a falling out. And basically, the only way to go back is to either tell her mom that she was right or come back with good news. I'm wondering, in the original timeline, was being pregnant the good news that she ended up... I mean, I don't know. I guess depending on your family, that could be seen as good news or it could be seen as bad news, especially considering the situation was like a one-night stand thing. But it's like, oh, he's getting to know her. What I found most interesting, too, is also her friend and Rufus, her friend, Claire's friend, and Rufus were kind of hitting it off, because she was like, oh my God, I love the A-Team, like they're best. They're like, yeah. And then even points, she's like, oh yeah, we could go over there and, play some music and dance or whatever, or, we can find something else to do. And Rufus was like, no, I'm good here, sitting here. And it's just like, oh, well, goes off and just starts dancing. It's like, dude, she's hitting on Rufus hard. I mean, for Rufus, one, he already has a girlfriend as Gia, so it's like, why would he kind of pay her any attention anyway? He even admitted, like, I guess the way she's so forward, I guess like he was like, oh, she's a little terrifying. But that was kind of interesting, like how that played out like that. Because even the bartender, Joel, was kind of like, dude, she's totally into you. And Rufus like, nah, I want to stay here, and nah, I'm good. I want to stay here with you. And Joel kind of looks at him like, and he's like, because you're so cool. Going back to Claire really quickly, was the fact is, Wyatt was like, hey, I'm gonna give you the best advice. It's the fact is that, hey, you miss your family, right? Don't let anything stand in your way. Like, go back home because you don't want to end up regretting, excuse me, not seeing them when you have the chance, because that'll be a big regret. He knows better than anyone. He's like, he hasn't seen his family in a while, but he's like, oh, but I'll see them soon enough, kind of referencing Jessica. I also appreciate the guy that was kind of kind of hitting on Claire hard, that Wyatt had to kind of go like, yo, dude, are you feeling what I'm telling you? Like, back away. And the dude was like, oh, okay, sure. Mr. Douglas from Teen Wolf. I was like, wait, what? I don't know why, that just tripped me out a little bit. I was just like, dude. He kind of screws everything up later because he ends up getting drunk and attacks. Why he picks the wrong person to attack, though. But he plays a role in screwing it all up, and so do all of the stewardess, because he made up that whole lie about like, oh, he's high school friends with Claire and trying to track her down and everything. But they show up at the place because the whole place is shut down because of the tornado and everything. And I just loved it. Like, just everything just kept falling apart for them in this of just how everything played out. Because even got to the point, Rufus was like, maybe it's fate. And Wyatt's like, you shut your mouth. Don't you dare say that, it's fate. Because it's like, no matter what happened, they'd always find a way back to each other after him kind of getting kicked out the bar because of that whole, like, almost like stalking Claire type of situation. Because it put, also filling a lot of holes, because she's like, oh, how do you know so much about me and stuff like that? And it's like, oh, you're trying to track me down. It's like, oh, that's creepy and everything. So it's kind of sad. Like, to a certain extent, it's sad because it's like, for Wyatt, I'm sure, it doesn't matter, but it was like, oh, it was kind of nice that they were just talking, especially because he was trying to give her advice that hopefully, we don't really get to know, but hopefully in some shape or form, she went back home and led like a good, normal life or something. We really don't really know. Like, his parents are just kind of like storyline wise are insignificant. The only purpose they play is the fact is they give birth to the guy that killed Jessica. And it's kind of like, okay, so what their lives are outside of that events, we don't know. Like, other than giving birth to their child, we don't know if they were actually good parents. Well, she was a good parent because apparently he wasn't around because it was kind of a one night thing. I don't know. And they never really referenced the fact is whether. No, because they said like she left, he stayed, and I think they talked about her going back to Cleveland. I don't know, because Wyatt's the one that did the most research in this whole situation. But just everything that could go wrong ended up going wrong. I love the fact is that he ends up taking a gun and ends up busting into their room, it kind of breaking the whole thing up. He's like, I don't want you to get together. She's trying to be like, oh God, you're such a good guy. He's like, no, it's not even like that. It's not like I want to be with you or anything. This is just, I'm trying to save someone's life. Tries to take Joel away. He's like, I'm not going to hurt you. Just going to take you for a drive. And to me, it's like, I already had this feeling in my head. I was like, something's going to go wrong. I thought like, oh, they're going to get in the car's going to crash or something like that. Or he gets in a car and tries to drive away, but then ends up getting hurt. Don't even get that far, because Joel tries to run away and then ends up tripping and bashing his head and dying. Which messes with Wyatt, because Wyatt's like, dude, I didn't mean to kill him. And Rufus is like, I understand, dude, I understand, like, you didn't mean to hurt him. He's like, but it still hurts him because it's like the guy didn't deserve to die. Because there was nothing to say that he was a terrible human being. Like I said, like if he was a bad dude or something, that would have come up during like Wyatt's research or something like that. But it seemed like he was just a regular dude who was living his life, and his life is cut short in this particular timeline because of what Wyatt did. And it's like, at the end of the day, yes, it was for his wife, but that doesn't make it any better, because what Rufus had previously asked him, and he answers him much later, it being like, what would Jessica think of me? Think of this whole situation? She'd be disappointed. She'd be horrified at all the things that I've done, especially under this circumstances. Like, it was an accident, sure, but all those events played out because of what he did. But for him, it's like, no matter how horrible it is, she could hate me for what I've done, but at the very least, she would be alive and around to hate me. So that's all that he needed. And it's like, hey, I can go back home and I'm gonna see Jessica. But sadly, it doesn't work out that way, because apparently the guy didn't kill Jessica, because the other two victims he did kill are alive in this timeline, but Jessica's still dead. So he lied about killing her. Because to me, like, I threw this out there already, like, I don't think, Jessica's death wasn't some random event. And this proves it. Like, she was specifically killed, probably they were told by that guy to fake, like, this lie and say that he killed Jessica. Or maybe he did that just because he was like, well, no, because he already knew so much about Wyatt. So it has to be a situation of like someone came to him. I'm thinking Rittenhouse. Like, I think it's been a while back, but I'm pretty sure I said that was probably Rittenhouse who kind of put it. That's because that seems like such a Rittenhouse thing to kind of get the things to kind of line up the way they want to. Because it would make sense, because if maybe the point was to kill Jessica and make it so that Wyatt never finds out, and then eventually, like, it would lead to him being more here. Like, because obviously that's what a big part in this episode was, finding out about Rittenhouse's plan, which I pretty much, said from the beginning. Like, it was the only logical explanation for what they would want, because it's like, well, time travel's involved, and you've kind of had your hand in all different points in American history. Because basically, Emma explained it to Flynn, and basically Anthony was like, oh, we got to destroy the mothership and, talk to Rufus about destroying the lifeboat. But Flynn is like, no, we're going to go about our plan, because eventually they would rebuild another time machine, but it would give them time to find a way to deal with them. But for Flynn, it's like, no, the only thing he has on his mind right now is saving his family. And it's like, that would basically mean putting a pin in the whole stopping Rittenhouse situation. It's like, for him, it's all about stopping Rittenhouse. It's the only way he's going to get the life back that he had before. But Anthony is not so keen on it, so he decides like he's going to help them. He talks to Lucy about the whole situation, that basically Rittenhouse wants to kind of rewrite history in their own image. Like I said, be the puppeteers behind, like, go back and make sure that different things don't go their way, because history, yes, has worked out for them in certain extents, but it hasn't gone their way in others. So it's time to go back in time and fix those events so that they go Rittenhouse's way, so that basically, essentially, they can build a utopia of their own image. What that image looks like, I don't know. Anthony kind of threw out some ideas of like, oh, it's this and that, but it's like because we at the end of the day, we still don't 100% know. Well, I'm about to say, we don't 100% know exactly what Rittenhouse believes, like I said, it seems like they are trying to build the perfect world of no, but at the same time, it's kind of like, it's probably a situation where it's like, oh, you build this beautiful utopia, but to maintain it, obviously get to that utopia, a lot of bloodshed had to be made. And it's probably a situation where it's like, oh, sacrifices must be made to get the utopia we've always wanted. But even to maintain it, anyone falls out of line or doesn't go along with their beliefs, they probably kill everyone along the way. So, but that's kind of my point of like, maybe, because they're so particular about getting time in matched up, maybe that's what, because they needed things to play out, especially in Lucy's case, because she's tied into all this, because Agent Christopher finally showed her like all the evidence she's got against Mason and the person that she's meeting, that he was meeting the dude from Rittenhouse. And then she tells Christopher, this guy's my dad. So it's like, now she knows she's part of her dad's part of Rittenhouse now. But at the same time, also, maybe it was actually Flynn himself too. I kind of thought, that's kind of floating in my head. Maybe Flynn at some point in time went back and killed Wyatt's wife, because he wants kind of the same reason to put Wyatt in a position to be with Lucy, because of based on what happened in a journal, because that's what he's going by. So maybe he knows exactly what happened. I mean, because to be fair, he is the one that gave Wyatt that false name. So maybe it was Flynn in his long need to snuff out Rittenhouse. Like I said, things had to play out a certain way. He had to get Wyatt to go along with Lucy. That's probably also another reason why Anthony went, was because they were like, oh, we need Rufus to stay here so he could be with Lucy and Wyatt and do everything that happens in a journal. Obviously, Anthony's probably the more experienced one. Plus, it's like, at the end of the day, like, he has ample reason to want to stop Rittenhouse too, because him and Emma and everything. So, but it's just sad that, like, even after everything Wyatt did, he's in big trouble for it now. But it's like, after everything he's done, it amounted to nothing. Staining his hands, accidentally killing that dude. just did a lot of damage in the past. And it helped out because it's like, oh, those two women are still alive today. So there's that, but it's like, it doesn't change his situation. So basically, almost to him, it's equal to him going back in time and doing nothing. And then sadly there was an explosion at the compound where the mothership was. They go there, but they find rubble, but it's not from the mothership. They end up finding Anthony's body. Basically, Flynn had killed him, so had figured him out. I kind of figured it was going to play out that way. It had to, especially because he was asking Emma. It's like, oh, you know how to fly this and everything. Like it was already set up to be like that because Emma was supposed to be a replacement. I wonder if she's going to actually say anything next episode because obviously her and Anthony have a past and everything. So I'm still curious, like, what's up with her and Mason? I'm sure, I alluded to it last episode. I think there was something there because no one actually knows about Emma yet because Anthony didn't tell Lucy and the whole team doesn't know about it. Especially it makes you wonder what would Mason do knowing that she's around. But nevertheless, it's like she's going with Flynn, so it's kind of like I do hope that she says something next episode because it's like even she was kind of along with Anthony of like, yo, we might as well just destroy the lifeboat and the mothership so that they don't have access to the time machines and stuff like that. So. And then there's also the situation with Mason. Like I said, it's just like like him and Agent Christopher are coming like butting heads to head because he's like, yo, this is my place. You're up here. How dare you? And it's like, she's like, I am here because the government gives me the power to be here. And it just kind of like, obviously like, because she knows he's dirty and I don't think he knows about her knowing. I think Rittenhouse does. Maybe they did. I don't remember. But nevertheless, I was halfway expecting her to say something, but it's like, nah, she's not going to say anything until the time's right because she can't do anything because also doing something would jeopardize her wife and their child or children. How many kids do they have? I don't remember. God, me and my sucky memory. But when the lifeboat returned and everything, she was there and her and Mason were arguing and then she left out the room. There was a blue folder on her table. That's the same blue folder that had pictures of Mason and Lucy's dad in it talking. So I was halfway expecting it. Didn't show it, but who's to say it didn't happen? He didn't look into the folder and sees and knows that she's onto him. So I don't know. I want Mason to get his crap together. Like I said, there's got to be more to why he's working. Obviously, he's scared for his life, but I'm hoping on everything there's more to it. Because even in Anthony's situation, they did some bad things. And even Anthony was like, yo, we're just as bad as Rittenhouse with all the bad stuff we're doing to the timeline and everything. But in the grand scheme of things, yes, it's for a better cause. It's for a good cause and everything, but it still doesn't justify doing all the bad things they've done, all the people they've hurt, all the innocent people they've killed. So. And the very end of the episode ends with Lucy talking to her dad, and her dad's like, oh, I'm so glad you know about all of this now. And the fact is, I've had to watch you from afar, but now you're here. And she's like, I mean, you're a monster and everything. It's like, oh, you think you really understand Rittenhouse? Rittenhouse is your legacy. She's part of it. So I'm also thinking maybe that has to do with what's written in a journal too. I don't know. I want to know what's going to go down like next episode, like so much, like what's going to happen with Wyatt, what's going to happen with the team. Are they going to replace Wyatt now? What's going on with Lucy talking to her dad? Like obviously we're going to find out a little bit more about Rittenhouse and kind of like their whole system and everything. But like the point I was making is like, oh, could this be connected to the journal and everything? Because like I said, I'm still confused about that because we had the whole situation with Flynn having the journal, and it's like all this different stuff that basically him and Lucy would eventually work together and everything. And it's like, well, obviously they will eventually work together because they're both going to want to try and take down Rittenhouse. But I'm guessing talking to her dad is going to influence her into being like, you know what? No, we got to take down Rittenhouse hard by any means necessary. So, and also between her and Wyatt too, because there was a conversation between Gia and Lucy because Gia was super pissed that Rufus would do all this without telling her. And it's like, oh, if there's someone that you like or even possibly love, you don't keep secrets from them. And then Gia was like, so how did you find out about this whole thing? And then she was like, Lucy was like, Wyatt told me. And it's like, oh. And you see this look on Gia's face, obviously alluding to what we've already kind of known that, there's something between Lucy and Wyatt. But at the same time, it's like, there's his wife and everything. So that's something that his main focus is. I think for both of them, it's that type of situation. Like for him, it's his wife is the main focus. And for her her sister is the main focus, but also because she knows that Jessica is Wyatt's main focus, so she won't really make a move. Neither one of them will, because for him, he'll feel like he's betraying his wife. So, especially because he has the potential to get her back. So, overall, very good episode. I'm so interested to see how everything will play out next episode. But really, that's all I want to talk about in this episode. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.